Breakdown of the seventh tradition of Alcoholics Anonymous. Self-support. Each group of alcoholics Anonymous must maintain complete self-support, refusing to accept contributions from outside. It has been said very tritely within the Alcoholics Anonymous groups that if you want to harm an alcoholic or sick person, talk to them about money. This causes a lot of stir and laughter within ourselves. However, how much truth there is in that simple phrase, and even more so when there is no awareness of why Alcoholics Anonymous needs contributions from the same community or group for its survival, since we ourselves refuse to accept contributions from other people, institutions, or companies. The damage that could be caused would be irrevocable, as at some point, as we saw in the second tradition, Bill W. mentioned, the good is the enemy of the best. The question we ask ourselves when we first arrive at a group is, does Alcoholics Anonymous support itself? This principle is a compelling test of the profound transformation that Alcoholics Anonymous has wrought in all of us. Everyone knows that active alcoholics have an enormous capacity to make money. However, all that money that was earned at some point was also squandered on parties, on celebrations, buying friends, or alternatively, buying love and affection from women of dubious origin. Squandering our money and never thinking about our future has left us with catastrophic consequences, which today within Alcoholics Anonymous we try to amend. Therefore, the philosophy of believing that just today was enough was yielding results that as our disease worsened, left us, and worse still, walking with an outstretched hand. Since time immemorial, we had depended on someone, usually in matters of money. When a society composed exclusively of alcoholics says it will pay all its expenses, that is indeed real news. This surprises society, as many of us arrive devastated in the material instinct. While it is true that we do not try to generalize, since many companions may arrive well established financially, they will have to realize that if they continue with the ungovernability in between, sooner or later, the rapacious robber will come and strip us of everything. Let us remember that in life we have nothing certain but death. How many veterans have said it night after night? Nothing is certain in life. Even life itself is a wheel of fortune. Sometimes you find yourself up, sometimes down. In the early years, it was assumed that people should give money to alcoholics who strive to stay sober. We can understand why we believed we deserved a lot of money. Let us imagine the magnificent things that Alcoholics Anonymous could be with all that money. But, as curious as it may seem, the people who had money thought so. They felt that now that we were sober, it was time for us to pay our own bills. So our community became poor, because that's how it had to be. This is a great reality, as it is evident in our groups. While it is true that we had money for our eloquent drunken binges, a phenomenon occurs. The militant individual in a group, or who is in the process of recovery and remains within a group, becomes stingy and miserly with the group. Every time the basket or hat is passed around for coins or bills to support the group, their stinginess is often disguised by saying that they have more pressing expenses. We are left with a former herd of drunks. However, the facts are the opposite, because it is not true that the group is the one that has helped them to remain sober and carry out their activities. These types of individuals are called dogs that bite the hand that feeds them. The Alcoholics Anonymous movement remains poor while its members become rich. This is very normal, and has been so since the groups were founded. The truth is that alcoholics are all or nothing people. Our reaction to money seems to prove it. As Alcoholics Anonymous moved from infancy to adolescence, we abandoned the idea that we needed large sums of money and went to the other extreme, saying that Alcoholics Anonymous did not need money at all. In the early days of Alcoholics Anonymous, there was a fear that money would distort our community. Everyone was saying the same thing. AA and money don't mix. We have to separate the spiritual from the material. We changed course so abruptly because there were some members here who had tried to use their connections with AA to make money, and we were afraid they would take advantage of us. As in all of society, there are both good and bad places. That is, when some people start a group, it is really to help people and fulfill our sole purpose. But there are other types of people who start groups to obtain certain economic benefits, and when this happens, the group begins to be seen as a branch of a company that pays dividends. This makes the pseudo-leaders of these groups the real hierarchs of the same. In short, we can say that when a group is seen as a branch from which we are going to obtain economic benefits, all kinds of spirituality in the group is broken, because people begin to be seen not as humans, but as a sign of money. This is something that must be kept in mind at all times. The Alcoholics Anonymous program was not created to obtain economic benefits for certain people. This has been a distortion that has become normal over time. Regularly, in this, they do not like to study or read traditions, as these go against their interests. On occasions, some grateful benefactors had provided us with a venue for a club, and as a consequence, there was sometimes outside interference in our affairs. We were given a hospital, and almost immediately the donor's son presented himself as its main patient and aspiring manager. A group of Alcoholics Anonymous was given $5,000 to do with this money as they wished. The fights that this money provoked continued to wreak havoc in the group for years. That is why they say that whoever pays the musical group chooses the piece that should be danced. For this reason, we do not allow donations from places, houses, hospitals for the good of our community and mental health. Accepting this type of thing creates strife, power, prestige, and confusion within the AA community. For we must remember that this situation has separated not only towns, but nations themselves, which fight for money and power and has created great world wars. What would await us? A simple handful of failed men and women in life? It was logical that if we did not change this way of thinking in the Alcoholics Anonymous community, it would not be what we know today. Frightened by these complications, some groups refused to have even a cent in their coffers. Heavy concerns made us recognize the fact that Alcoholics Anonymous had to function. The venues for meetings cost us something. To avoid confusion in entire regions, it was necessary to establish small offices, install phones, and hire some secretaries or some workers. Despite many protests, it was possible to manage these things, as Alcoholics Anonymous needed to cover its expenses to function, such as the rent at a meeting place, the purchase of coffee, tea, water, electricity, among others. In this regard, Bill W. likes to tell the following story, which has its moral. He says that when the article by Jack Alexander appeared in the Saturday Evening Post in 1941, thousands of anguished letters from alcoholics and desperate family members arrived at the mailbox of the New York Alcoholic Foundation. The staff of our office, Bill W. recounts, was made up of 2 people, a dedicated secretary and me. How were we going to respond to this avalanche of requests? Without a doubt, we would have to hire more paid employees, so we asked for voluntary contributions from the AA groups. They would send us $1 per member per year. Otherwise, these moving letters would have to go unanswered. To my astonishment, the groups took a long time to respond. I became quite angry or upset one day while contemplating that pile of letters. I was going back and forth in the office, complaining about how irresponsible and stingy my AA companions were. At that very moment, I saw the disheveled and pained head of an old acquaintance peek through the door. He was our champion of relapses. I could tell he had a tremendous hangover. Remembering some of my own, my heart filled with compassion. I signaled for him to come into the cubicle and took out a $5 bill. Since my weekly income was a total of $30, this was a considerable donation. Luis needed money to buy food, but that didn't stop me. The deep relief that reflected on my friend's face warmed my heart. I felt especially virtuous thinking about all the ex-drunks who didn't even send us $1 each to the foundation, while I was gladly making a $5 investment to remedy one of my friend's hangovers. The meeting that night was held at the old club on 24th Street, New York. During the intermission, the treasurer gave a timid talk about the sorry state of the group's finances, but finally let it slip. The landlord would put us out on the street if we didn't pay the rent. He ended his remarks by saying, "Well, guys, when the hat is passed around tonight, please be a little more generous today." I clearly heard his words while fervently trying to convert a newcomer sitting next to me. The hat came to where I was, and I reached into my pocket. While I continued talking with the new guy, I rummaged through my pocket and pulled out a 50-cent coin. For some reason, it seemed like a very large coin. Without hesitation, I put it back in my pocket and took out a 10-cent coin that jingled timidly as it fell into the hat. Where bills were never thrown in at that time, then my eyes were opened. I, that very morning, had boasted about my generosity. I had treated my own group worse than the distant alcoholics who had forgotten to send their dollars to the foundation. I realized that the $5 donation to the champion of relapses was nothing but a simple matter of inflating my own ego. Bad for him and worse for me. There was a place in Alcoholics Anonymous where spirituality and money could mix, which was the hat or the basket. There is another story that also deals with money. When reading a will, it was discovered that a person had left the Alcoholic Foundation a legacy of $10,000. The question was, should Alcoholics Anonymous accept such a gift? Wow, a debate broke out. At that moment, Alcoholics Anonymous was in very bad financial shape. The groups were not sending enough for the maintenance of the office. Even adding the income produced by the book, we did not reach to cover the expenses. We needed those $10,000. It may be, someone said, that the groups never fully managed to support the office. We cannot allow it to close. It is of crucial importance. Yes, we accept the money. Let us accept all future donations. We are going to need them. If we refuse to accept absolutely and firmly the donations from others, one day Alcoholics Anonymous would become rich. Moreover, at the slightest hint to the public from our trustees that we needed money, we would become immensely rich. Compared to that perspective, the $10,000 under consideration were a small matter. However, just like the first drink of an alcoholic, if we took it, it would inevitably provoke a disastrous chain reaction. And where would we end up then? He who pays commands. And if Alcoholics Anonymous had money from outside sources, its trustees might be tempted to run our affairs without considering the wishes of the community as a whole. Freed from this responsibility, each alcoholic would shrug and say, "The foundation is rich. Why should I bother to give money?" Surely the pressure of having such overflowing coffers would tempt the board to devise another type of projects to do good works, thus diverting Alcoholics Anonymous from its primary objective. As soon as this happened, the trust of the community would be diminished. The board would find itself isolated and subjected to harsh criticism from AIA and the public in general. These were the possibilities for and against. And then our trustees wrote a brilliant page in the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. They manifested in favor of the principle that Alcoholics Anonymous must always remain poor. In summary, this tradition is where the spiritual part can be united with the material for a simple and straightforward reason. Every coin we deposit in the basket becomes lives that will be saved from the underworld of the disease. While it is true that we need money for our daily expenses, which we have to pay, the services we need to function, and suggestively, a prudent reserve to be able to operate for some time if finances do not go very well. And this should not be an obstacle to continue working on ourselves and with other people who are about to arrive. Alcoholics Anonymous does not have to become rich, for this type of accumulation of money can be very dangerous for the structure. We would be tempted to steal, even to begin to distort our only objective, which is to remain sober and help those who are about to arrive. To end this tradition, it will be with a great phrase of great meaning. Whoever has never had money and comes to have it wants to go crazy. Let us remember that money in the hands of the sick is pure dynamite. Hello, everyone. We hope that this article has been of help to you. We invite you to subscribe to the channel and to leave us in the comments box your particular point of view about this tradition and what you have experienced. Happy 24 hours. We send you a strong hug. And until next time, thank you for joining us on this spiritual journey toward recovery. If you have found value in our content and would like to continue exploring topics related to Alcoholics Anonymous and personal transformation, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications to receive alerts for our new videos. Together, we can build a community of support and hope. Until next time, and take care.